What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Tenet video. I have seen Tenet and I absolutely loved it. Christopher Nolan is one of my favourite movie makers of all time, and here this was no exception as being a mind-blowing, cerebral, cinematic experience, while this time he didn't get too bogged down in the scientific detail. You had to just sit there and take this movie at face value, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And my highlight of the cast was probably John David Washington, as he was just absolutely stunning in this movie, and he was also great in Black Klansman. But today we will be discussing the top 5 craziest things you may have actually missed in this movie. And yes, there was quite a lot to miss, especially with dialogue being masked by the score of the movie. Now the first is easily missed, and it involves the movie's title, Tenet. And this actually is a palindrome which fits into something known as the Sator-Rotas square. It is a word square with palindromes in it, and each word is actually in the movie that is also in the square. Now, Sator was, of course, Andre Sator, played by Kenneth Branagh, the movie's villain. Arepo was the forgery specialist who faked the Goya painting and actually had to suffer the consequences. Tenet is, of course, the movie's title and the name of the organisation set up in the future to stop Andre and his co-conspirators from the future. Opera is, of course, the opening siege, and Rotas was the company who owned the free port in the movie where the painting was kept. The palindromes show that time now moves both ways thanks to the reverse entropy. The palindromes show that time now moves both ways thanks to the reverse entropy technology. The second was actually very weird. The latter third of the movie revolves around Andre Sator wanting to die when he wants to, and also setting off the algorithm that he was told to do by the future people. His death is pivotal, as it will bring about the end of the past, or, well, the present, in this case for the movie's characters. He chooses the time when he was the most happy, and it seems when he thinks his wife was the most submissive. His choice of suicide method is a suicide pill lifted from the CIA. Now that is important, as the protagonist actually took one of these pills to avoid being interrogated brutally and potentially giving up the rest of his team after the opera siege went wrong. As it turns out, they are actually fake and do not kill the person who takes them. The protagonist took his and woke up in a coma and was then told that the pill was just a test to join Tenet. It was made so that you had to kind of realise which side are you on. Are you willing to actually go the whole hog and end your life to actually do the mission? Well, this means that if Sator actually got his from the agents who died in the opera siege, or just generally got it from the CIA, he would not have actually died. Naturally, he would have died from his pancreatic cancer in the future, but this means at this time, the dead man switch wouldn't actually go off, and he would have really lived, and he wouldn't have lived out his life's plan. Now, in at number 3 is more of a theory than anything. It is the idea that Neil is actually Kat's son. But we know that Kat's son is actually called Max. Well, it's revealed at the end of the movie that Neil has known the protagonist all this time. He's known him for years. Just like River Song and the Doctor, they've met at different times in each other's lives. The protagonist is starting his journey, and Neil is way in the future and is actually on a trip through the machines. So he cannot be called Max, or the protagonist would know this and things would change. You cannot change the future. That is why Neil didn't tell him about what happened in the Freeport with him actually from the future, because had he had known, he would have changed things. Neil actually has the same hair as Max and seems to take special care of Kat after she was shot. He seems to take a very special interest in making sure that she survives. Granted, it could be so that the plan does succeed, but it is curious nonetheless. Now, talking about Neil and Robert Pattinson's character as a whole, Christopher Nolan said this: "We think he may be called Neil, you never really quite know what's going on with these identities." So to me, that almost confirms that Neil isn't called Neil, and, well, he's actually Max from the future and is recruited by your boy, the protagonist. Also, as an aside, Neil, knowing the protagonist from the future, explains how he knew what drink to order him in India and how he never drinks on the job. Just absolute wow. I know that when I go and watch this again, I'm still going to notice things which I didn't see the first time, and that is just a fantastic filmmaking and its best there. Now, number 4 is a very cool one. We were given a word and a gesture, Tenet, and hands clasped together, showing the time from the past and the future connecting. Now, due to a bootstrap paradox and also a grandfather paradox, things get very, very weird. The tech for creating reverse entropy landed in the past, so it was never actually invented. It has now always existed because it was sent back in time. It's the same as if you go back in time and give someone, I don't know, a really cool computer, they can reverse engineer it, but it was never actually created. This is kind of what the show Dark was about, and funny enough, I was speaking to Definition from Heavy Spoilers about this over DM. Go and check him out, he's a great dude. And we agreed that it's very much like Dark's way of time travel and paradoxes. Now, what is interesting here is that Neil actually explains all of this to the protagonist when he's looking after Kat post-shooting. He explains how the algorithm works and does it by showing that time coming together with the hand gesture. Now, essentially, Neil has actually created the hand gesture that the protagonist will use, that he will send back through time to give to himself as an identifier that people are working for Tenet. Just mind blown times 9,000. And lastly, at number 5, was one you may have missed, is that Neil was actually the one who saved the protagonist at the Opera House. We know that Neil has been in the game longer than the protagonist at this part of the story because of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. Neil has essentially been moving backwards through time, and Neil of the Opera House was at a different part of the plan. We know he is Neil because he has a red ribbon on his backpack at the end of the movie. This is the same red ribbon that was on the person in the Opera House. So it is absolutely crazy there that we have these going at different times. And this opens it up for sequels because we haven't seen the whole story yet. We've seen just a portion of it. The protagonist in this movie is going forward, but it seems like Neil of this story, as of the ending, is going backwards, as they are at different timelines technically. Just crazy stuff there. So that was really great. I wasn't going to put this video out just yet, but I was so excited to make it. But tomorrow I will have a Suicide Squad video for you, and either later on Saturday or probably Sunday morning, I will have a New Mutants video to bring to you as well. So stay tuned, hit that subscribe with notifications on, because there's some big content coming for you guys on this channel. And again, I do appreciate all the love that you show. And next week we will be having a Mulan review and The Boys breakdown as well. So hit that subscribe. Please drop a like as well if you enjoyed the video, and let me know down below what content you want on this channel. And I'll see you soon, and goodbye.